It was supposed to be an easy recon mission. The weather was clear, the equipment checked, and the men in good spirits. Sergeant Michael Carter had done this 100 times before. Move in, gather signal intel, and get out before nightfall. But war never keeps its promises. Somewhere deep in the jungle, the sky cracked open with artillery fire. One moment, Carter was listening to coordinates on his radio. The next, he was thrown into the dirt by an explosion that ripped the world apart. His headset was gone, his rifle half buried in mud, and the jungle had gone silent except for the hiss of rain. Delta 1, this is Echo 3, do you copy? Static, nothing. He tried again. Command, this is Sergeant Carter. I'm hit but alive. Request extraction. The radio coughed once, then died completely. Carter looked around. Trees torn to splinters. Smoke crawling through the leaves, no voices, no movement. He called for his team again, louder this time, but the jungle swallowed every sound. He was alone, cut off behind enemy lines, miles from base, and with a bleeding arm that refused to stop. He pressed his back against a fallen log, breathing hard. The forest smelled of iron and rain. He thought of home, of his daughter's birthday that he had already missed, and of the picture tucked inside his vest. He touched it once for courage, then pushed forward. The first night was endless. Insects screamed, the ground steamed, and every shadow felt alive. He followed the river, hoping it led north. The moonlight flickered across his face like ghosts passing by. He whispered to himself, just to hear a human voice. Keep moving, Mike. Keep moving. At dawn, he found a clearing and bandaged his arm with a strip from his sleeve. The wound was deep, but not fatal, at least not yet. He opened his ration pack, 2 protein bars, 1 canteen, and half a prayer. He marked a direction with his compass and started walking again. By the 3rd day, the rain came heavy. Everything was wet, his gear, his boots, even his thoughts. He slipped, fell, got up and walked again. Hunger clawed his stomach, thirst burned his throat. When the sky thundered, he pretended it was applause. Anything to keep moving. That night, his radio flickered to life for the first time since the explosion. A faint voice broke through the static. Ridge. Evac point. 400, and then silence. Carter froze, staring at the small green light. It blinked twice and went dark again. Evac point, he whispered. 4 a.m. That was hope. Small, broken, but alive. He checked the map. The ridge was at least 12 miles north through dense terrain. It could take days, but he started walking anyway. Because soldiers don't wait for rescue, they walk toward it. He slept under trees, counting lightning strikes like lullabies. Once, he saw an enemy patrol pass within 50 feet of his position. He held his breath, hand on his knife, praying the rain would cover the sound of his heart. When they were gone, he laughed quietly. Not today. On the 5th night, he saw a glow in the distance, orange and steady, fire. He crept closer, belly to the ground, eyes wide. 5 enemy soldiers sat around a campfire, laughing, cooking, careless. He stayed low, waiting until they dozed off, then crawled forward. There was a backpack near one of them. Inside, he found a water bottle and half a loaf of bread. As he turned to leave, a twig cracked under his boot. One of them stirred. Carter froze. Lightning flashed across the trees, thunder exploded a second later, and the man rolled over, still asleep. The storm had saved him again. He vanished back into the darkness. By the 7th day, the fever started. His wound was infected, his body shaking. He couldn't tell dreams from reality anymore. He saw his daughter running through the trees, calling his name. He reached out, but she faded into mist. He fell face first into the mud and stayed there, whispering, I'm still here. I'm still here. When he woke, the rain had stopped. The air was hot and thick. He dragged himself toward a patch of sunlight, sipping the last of his stolen water. Every breath hurt, every step felt heavier than the last. But he remembered his commander's words. If the signal dies, don't. Keep going north. He walked until his legs gave out. Then he crawled. Hours later, he heard something he hadn't heard in days, a low mechanical hum. Distant, rising, helicopter. He scrambled to his feet, waving his arms. Over here. I'm alive! He shouted, voice cracking. The sound grew louder, then faded away, lost behind the mountains. He dropped to his knees, screaming into the empty sky. No, come back! The jungle gave no answer. For the first time, tears fell freely down his dirt-covered face. He slammed the useless radio against a rock. It cracked in half. You can lose the signal, he muttered, but not the fight. The next morning, he decided to climb the ridge. It was the hardest climb of his life, hands torn, breath ragged, vision blurred. Every few feet he stopped to whisper his daughter's name. When he reached the top, he collapsed. Below him stretched a valley of mist and rivers. Far away he saw a flash of metal. Maybe the sun, maybe a drone. Maybe salvation. He pulled out his flare gun, the one thing he'd saved since day one. Please work, he whispered, and fired. A red flare streaked through the sky, bright against the grey clouds. It hung there like a heartbeat refusing to die. For a few seconds, there was only silence. Then a crackle in his headset, faint, broken but real. Echo 3. This is Rescue Command. We've got your signal. Hold position, Carter laughed, half crying, half delirious. Took you long enough, he said, collapsing back onto the ground. He lay there smiling as the sound of rotors grew louder overhead. When the rescue team found him, he had been in the jungle for 12 days. He'd lost 20 pounds, his gear was destroyed, and his radio was shattered. But he was alive. The medic asked how he'd kept going without food or backup. Carter smiled faintly and said, I didn't come this far to die with the radio off. Weeks later, back at base, the general pinned a medal on his chest. Cameras flashed, reporters asked questions, but Carter just looked down at the broken radio on the table beside him, the same one he carried all the way through hell. He touched it gently and said, Sometimes the strongest signal isn't the one you send. It's the one that keeps you moving when nobody's listening. The room fell silent. Even the reporters lowered their cameras. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, sounding almost like static, almost like a heartbeat, like a lost signal finally coming home.